Welcome to another edition of TSA Safety Matters. I'm your host, Greg Kerr from Stakeholder Relations, and today we're with Mike Adams, TSSA's Director for Boilers and Pressure Vessels and Operating Engineers, and talk about things in the industry, what's happening, and TSA's jurisdiction over both aspects of the industry. So thanks for being with us, Jim.
Well, thanks, Greg, for the opportunity to be here.
Okay. First off, Mike, I know that the regulation for boilers and pressure vessels went through an extensive consultation and is about to come into effect for some of the changes that have been implemented. Maybe first off, you could sort of give a background of what happened during that consultation.
Well, Greg, we've started the work on the BPVOE reg about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Extensive consultations with industry, with the ministry. More recently, we've had an expert panel session with major stakeholders looking at the non-compliances in the BPVOE reg and how we were going to address them. The end result of that whole process is that a draft regulation, which also went through public consultation last year, went to Cabinet in November and got approved. Mm-hmm. So in 1 July of 2018, the amended BPV regulation comes into force. Some of the changes that we'll be seeing is that we will be changing how the certificates of inspection are being issued for all pressure boilers and pressure vessels in Ontario. Typically, historically we use the insurer report of inspection as the authorization to operate those devices. Going forward, as of July, only TSSA will be issuing the certificates of inspection. Mm-hmm. So all owners who are insured, who used to get their report of inspection from the insurers, will now have to come to TSSA to get the certificate of inspection for their boilers and pressure vessels. To do that, we're implementing a new portal so that to make it as easy as possible for our new customers to come to TSSA. We're planning on pre-creating the accounts for all the people who have boilers. So they just come onto the portal with the information from their insurer and then request the certificate of inspection. There will be a small fee to pay to get that certificate of inspection. And then the certificate of inspection will be ready for download.
You mean the record of inspection?
No, the certificate of inspection. That's what they're getting from TSSA.
Yes, but you'll be logging in with a secure channel. Yes. And uploading your record of inspection.
The insurers will be uploading the record of inspection data to us, and the owners will just refer to it. They won't have to do the actual upload. Mm-hmm. So we're working to make this as simple and painless as possible for this new requirement for the certificates of inspection for boilers and pressure vessels. Mm-hmm. We're also implementing a program to audit insurers who provide periodic inspections to make sure that they are performing the inspections in accordance with our code adoption document. As you may recall, all insurer inspectors are certified by TSSA and the National Board. So we're not, the audits that we're doing with the insurers, it's not a technical audit, it's more like a jurisdictional audit to make sure that they are inspecting all the devices in that they insure in accordance with the code adoption document.
And according to some kind of risk criteria of how frequently you're doing those.
Yes, in our code adoption document, we have a risk-based inspection frequency. High pressure boilers we inspect every year, low pressure boilers every 2 years, and unfired pressure vessels every 3 years. Mm-hmm. And there's a few other components like deaerators or autoclaves that are also inspected every year.
Mm-hmm. Now, the insurers used to provide the COI. And that was sort of an embedded fee for much of the customers. But the change right now is TSA will charge for that. What's the rationale behind that?
Well, the rationale is that the BPV safety program needs to be able to cost recovery mode to basically pay for the safety services that we provide to the province. Right now, we have not been able to do that because we don't have a resource from the actual owners of the BPVs. So the owners are not contributing to the safety program for BPV. With this small fee that will go along with the new C of I, that will put the BPV safety program in cost recovery mode, which is one of the fundamental requirements of the Memorandum of Understanding between TSSA and the Ministry.
And it'll give TSSA the data that they've always been required to have, but there's been a gap because the insurers were either not consistently giving that information or didn't have all that information. So we'll be able to provide a broader, wider safety net.
That's exactly right. When I first started here, I was not able to answer two very simple questions. How many boilers and pressure vessels are operating in Ontario, and when were they last inspected? I still can't answer that, but once we go live in July and start getting the information from the insurers, then I will be able to answer that question and have a much better feel for the state of the fleet of boilers and pressure vessels in Ontario. Previously, the insurers were not required to share their data with us. That's one of the big changes from this new regulation amendment, that they will now, we will now be requiring them to share that information with us. So us, TSSA, the regulator, will have the full information on the devices operating in Ontario.
Now, a lot of them are willing and see the rationale in doing so. In fact, for the portal that we're developing, we already have some insurers who want to participate in a first testing kind of phase.
That's right.
What kind of things will be involved at that early stage? What will they be doing?
Well, right now we're in the process of standardizing the data format and what we want and in what format we want it. We're going to be sharing that with the insurers in the next week or so, and and then they'll have to modify their system so that they'll be able to do just a simple export from their systems and just transmit that information to us through the portal, so that we'll get our record of inspection data in a electronic format to make it easier for the insurers to share that information with us. And we already have some volunteers from the insurers who would like to participate in the pilot before July to make sure that the system works well.
And that'll be beneficial as well, because once you get that information, you'll be able to create custom accounts for all those owners, so that when they log in, they have no worries. What the information they get from their insurers, they just, boom, they get their COI.
We've already started that process, and we're starting to create accounts now for everybody. We have, just in December, asked the insurers for a list of their clients so that we can pre-set up their accounts. And that process is already ongoing, and should be fully in place by 1 July.
Excellent. So we'll be communicating soon about the launch of that, or the testing phase of that portal, as well as sending out, I guess, information packages about what's required.
Yes, we're finishing up the first round of information packages, and one batch was supposed to be out the 30th of January. We're 2 or 3 days behind that, but that's just for logistical reasons and how to send an email out to 155 people. But we've got that should be fixed by today, and so we're just finalizing that information, and we'll be sharing that with insurers, owners, and the general public in the next few days.
Now, you also mentioned that you'll be doing an audit of insurers and their inspections, and it's not a technical one, but there's also an attestation part of the regulatory change. What are they attesting to?
Right now, there's about 155 insurers who are licensed to underwrite boiler and machinery insurance in Ontario. So we are going to go through an attestation plan or program where we'll contact each and every one. We do get a list from the finance ministry of who the insurers are active every year. So, and that includes all the contact information. So we're going to be using that information and send them a letter where they can attest whether or not they are active in underwriting and inspecting boilers and pressure vessels. We expect out of the 155, maybe just over 20 are actually active. And then once we get that information, those that are active, then we will schedule audits. And we're estimating around 7 audits a year, because they're a triennial audit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wouldn't, because you could also get that information from the national board, right, of how many AIAs they have or that are operating, or?
Yes, that's for there's about 8 insurers who have a technical certificate of authorization from the national board, and that allows them to employ their own boiler inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's another, say 12 or more who don't have a certificate of authorization from the national board, so they utilize third-party inspection agencies to inspect the boilers that they insure. And right now we've got 2 third-party inspection agencies in Ontario that pick up that work.
Mm-hmm. So it might be beneficial for those individuals to be part of the test phase for the portal as well.
We're going to be casting a wide net to see who wants to participate in the pilot.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like we're making sure everything's covered for the July 1st launch. Is there anything else that you want to add specifically about this change that's coming up?
Well, it's a lot of work. We've got a lot of people applied to making this work and getting it ready for 1 July. Another feature of this system is we're planning on issuing a unique identifier for all boilers and pressure vessels, so that when we're talking about or getting information on a specific boiler or pressure vessel, instead of giving us tons of information about its manufacturer, its serial number, its CRN, etc., all we'll have to use is that single unique number for that device, and we'll know exactly what device we're talking about and where it is, etc., etc. So that's another initiative we're working on, trying to get in place for 1 July.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yes, we're trying to do it.
Yeah, excellent. So that will be not like a scanned QR code, or
we're looking at options right now. It could be a sticker we put on each device. It could be, if we want to really think science fiction, it could be an RF dot or something. Anyways, we're looking at how best to identify the devices, but each one will have a unique identifier, and we're just looking at the best way. The first step is we have to issue the actual number identifier, and then we can look at technologies and how we want to improve how we provide that information.
Excellent. Well, it's 2 ways that this initiative ties in with a broader one that TSSA is doing on becoming a modern regulator,
Yep.
and its 2020 program of transforming its ECM and its business systems,
Yep.
to be able to provide this. So it's a good testing ground for BPV customers, because they'll have that customer portal.
Right.
That'll be there probably closer to 2019 when everything else goes live. But this is you guys are being
Yes.
the first out there.
Yeah, the BPV program we're the guinea pig for the portal applications for TSSA. So our portal will be up and running 1 July 2018, whereas the TSSA portal is not scheduled to be up and running in the next spring, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So will be a lot of lessons learned that we'll be learning as we get the portal up and running.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yes, it is exciting times.
Thanks again for being with us today, Mike, and talking about all the things that are going on for this regulatory change.
You're very welcome, and stay tuned, folks.
Stay tuned for more TSA safety matters.